Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 2.
Flaps 2.
Set speed and engage. 140. Flaps 3.
Flaps 3.
Flaps 4.
Flaps 4.
Set speed. 130.
Speed set to 130.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Spoilers. Armed.
Checked.
Landing gear. Down.
500.
Checked.
Flaps. Landing.
Checked.
Landing checklist completed.
400. $300.
Disengage autopilot.
200.
Hello everybody, here we are in Sierra Charlie Echo Lima with this beautiful Airbus A320 developed by FlyByWire, and I will show you how to use this aircraft with the new version of our flight guides and our FBC plugin. So let's go to it. Okay, so we're going to take out our VoiceAttack software, selecting the proper profile for this aircraft. So, going to the flight pad, I already created a flight plan in SimBrief, so let's import that data, and well then fuel right, let's check the fuel, refueling, and then the payload. Now it's boarding. Okay, so now we're going to start up the aircraft. So in this flight guides, for those of you who don't know yet how to use this, all these parts of the flight guide that show with a purple color, it means that these areas can be completed by voice commands via voice attack, right? So what you're going to say to trigger that voice command is to say pre-flight flow, right? This means the pilot flying is going to say pre-flight flow, and the pilot monitoring will respond starting pre-flight flow. Then the plugin is going to check, it's going to act on all of these items that have the purple squared to the left of them, right? So parking brake, battery, external power nav and logo lights, wing lights, all of these are going to be made automatically by the voice command. And then when the voice command is over, the pilot monitoring, which is the virtual voice, is going to say pre-flight flow completed. So let's do that so you can check it. By the way, if you click this button here, you can see all of the different voice commands you can do with this software, right? So you can see, well, there's all the flows, there's all the checklists. You should check the user manual to know how to use these, and the radios, autopilot events. Also, you should check the user manual to check how to do some of these items. bleed events, de-ice, electrical, engine start, right engine shutdown. These are all sequences that end when the engine is already running at idle RPM, right? So it's a complete sequence. It's not just pushing the starter on the fuel valve, and no, it's a complete sequence. So then flight controls like choosing flaps, spoilers, fuel, crossfeed valve, fuel pumps, setting the altimeter, all the lights, events related to the lights, and other things like transponder, IRS, and stuff, right? Gear up, gear down, crucial, parking brake. So you can see there's a great sort of things here. Okay, so let's do what we should do now. Pre-flight flow.
Starting pre-flight flow.
You can see over here in the log, it's checking all these items. This means these unrecognized commands was that I talked and it didn't recognize what I said, so it couldn't turn it into a voice command. No worries there. Now, as you see, it's starting the APU, so you can see the APU is pulling up, and when it becomes available, it's going to terminate that part of the command, because the flows is composed by various commands. So it will, when it is available, the command related to the APU is going to be over, and then the pre-flight flow command is going to continue with the other
APU
items.
ready.
There, right? And it continues with the other things, the other stuff. IRS, fuel pumps.
Pre-flight flow completed.
Right. Okay, so the aircraft is now started, and I mean, not the engines, the aircraft, the computer systems, all the IRS are in the nav position, so it's just a matter of time until we have there the primary flight display. And now what we should do is this part of the MCDU, right? So let's do that. MCDU menu, and since we are, well, that's a bit of an error here, over here in the flight. I'll check to repair that up. It should say over here without SimBrief, all these things, and with SimBrief, all these things. So MCDU menu, and ATSU, AOC menu, init press, initialize data request. Okay, so then initialize data request, winds, temperatures, wind request. Okay, all this, the MCDU is taking it, by the way, from the SimBrief, right? So from SimBrief directly. Okay, and now to the flight plan, and check the procedures for departure. 17R. What is, not sure. Nether 5C. Nether 5C. Insert. Then arrival. ILS 36Y. Nether 1Q, I think. Yes, another one Q. The CACSF insert. Alright, now it's all procedures inserted, and there's no discontinuities, so we're done with that. And then navigation frequencies, this one is incorrect. It's 109.9. I think I'm not wrong, but we will check that later. Page 2, zero fuel weight. Auto-populate means I check this button and the numbers auto-populate. They appear right here and I enter them. And then the block fuel, which you can find in the OFP. Payload reserve fuel, block fuel, sorry. 6,000 kilograms. I think this aircraft deals numbers in kilograms, so that must be 6 tons. Okay, I'll put 6.1, 6.2. Okay, and then to do the trim part, check the CG value, 33.1. Enter flex to temp. If you wish to take off at flight setting, right? Oh, sorry, that's in performance. Trans altitude, flaps THS. Okay, so the THS was calculated from CG. CG is something like 33, and so the trim position is going to be something like 0.6 down. So our flaps is going to be 1, and down 0.6. There it is. And now the speeds. Okay. So then we should call the ADC for clearance. I'm not going to do that because of time. ADC communications is not the point of this video. And setting the transponder code that the ADC is going to give to you, so you enter that over here, and then there's also a voice command to insert the transponder code, right? And flight control, speed, heading now, but altitude we're going to check. We're going to set altitude. So we're going to do it using voice commands. I'm going to try to do everything over here with voice commands, so you can be sure that pretty much all of it can be done with voice commands. So the voice commands we're going to use right now is to enter the altitude. There's 2 voice commands for that. Set altitude and set flight level. The difference is clear. In altitude, you set the altitude in feet. You say a number that's going to be the altitude in feet, and in flight level you say the number of the flight level, and it's going to set the altitude in flight level. So I think our cruising altitude. This is, by the way, these pre-selected altitudes, it should be an altitude that the ATC has cleared you to go to, right? And normally it's not the cruise altitude, it's somewhat lower. But in this case, as we didn't have any ATC communications, we're going to go with the cruising altitude. That's flight level 270, so we're going to set that. Set flight level 270.
Altitude set to flight level 270.
Right, so as you can see, altitude has been set, and then we go with before start flow. So this white square means that this is an item I have to check, because because the thrust lever idle is on my joystick, and I can't do a voice command to move my joystick, right? So yeah, it's in idle, and then I'm going to go with this the rest of the flow before start flow, right? Before start flow. Oh, I canceled the command. Okay, again. Before start flow.
Ready for checklist.
Flight attendants, arm doors, and cross-check.
Okay, ready for checklist. We're going to go with the checklist. Before start checklist, this one right here, and the way to go with it is the following. I'm going to say, right, pilot flying before start checklist, and then the pilot monitoring is going to respond before start checklist, and then the pilot monitoring is going to begin saying these things. Seatbelt signs on, and I should check that the seatbelt sign, right, is on, and then I'm going to say check, and the pilot monitoring is going to continue to the next point. ADIRS, it's a nav. Oh, I can't see it over here. Yeah, it's a nav. So I'm going to say check, and then it's going to continue on like that. Okay, so let's do that. Before start checklist.
Before start checklist. Seatbelt signs. On.
Check.
ADIRS. Nav.
Check.
Beacon lights. On.
Check.
Ground equipment. Clear.
Check.
Before start checklist completed.
Okay, so now I should call the ATC for pushback, right? Because normally aircraft start their engines while they're being pushed back, not before. So I'm going to do the pushback part using this application over here. It's called, by the way, Pushback by Ambitious Pilots. If you're interested in trying out, it's a bit out of date, but most aircrafts it works without problems. Okay, now I'm going to start the engines. Start engines.
Starting engines.
As you can see, the engine is starting to spool up. What's that guy doing?
Right engine ready.
Okay, so the first engine is ready. Sorry, it's the second engine actually, and we are starting to spool up the left engine.
Left engine ready. Engines running.
Okay, so both engines are ready, and we should now do this flow over here to start the taxi. After start flow.
Spoilers armed. Ready for taxi call.
Okay, and my items, engine mode selector. There's clearly a lot of humidity out there, so I'm going to kick the engine selector mode to start and wing the ice engine. What's the temperature outside? 12. That's going to be very soon. As soon as we take off, it's going to be below 10 degrees Celsius, so I'm going to have to check the engine anti-ice when we take off. And the flaps set to flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Okay, now we should call the ATC for taxi, and then we're going to do this checklist. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Anti-ice. As required.
Checked.
Auto brake. Max.
Checked.
Flight controls. Checked.
Checked.
Flight directors. On.
Checked.
MCP. Speed, heading and altitude set.
Checked.
V1, VR, and V2. Determined and sent.
Checked.
Trim. Set for takeoff.
Checked.
Nose light. Taxi.
Checked.
Before taxi checklist completed.
Okay, so at this point we should call the ATC for entering the runway, and we're going to do, as soon as we have that checked and we're entering the runway, we should do this flow over here, right? Because landing lights should be on before you enter the runway, right? before takeoff flow.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Ready for checklist.
Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Terrain on navigation display, as required.
Check.
Weather and predicted wind shear, on.
Check.
Transponder, altitude reporting, traffic and resolution advisory on.
Check.
PAX, as required.
Check.
Flaps, take off.
Check.
Engine mode selector, as required.
Check.
Nose light, take off.
Check.
Landing lights, on.
Check.
Strobe lights, on.
Check.
Before takeoff checklist completed.
Okay, so the voice control, the voice command for takeoff is going to be the following way. The pilot flying means you are going to say ready for takeoff, and then the pilot monitoring is going to say ready. And then you just start, right? And then you push, use toga or whatever to get the power, enough power to take off. And when you're at 80 knots, the pilot monitoring is going to say 80 knots, and then it's going to see V1 and rotate, because these numbers over here, V1 and VR, is going to be saved. When you trigger this voice command, these numbers are automatically saved into variables inside VoiceAttack that are going to be used for this section, right? So the pilot monitoring is going to call out V1 and rotate, and then when it senses that the aircraft is going on a vertical, positive vertical speed and above certain altitude, it's going to say positive rate, and then you're going to say gear up, and then it's going to say acceleration altitude at 1,500 feet or above ground. Okay, so let's just take off. Ready for takeoff.
Ready. Knots. V1. Rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up. Acceleration altitude.
Engage automatic flight. Okay, so we have a few commands here related with the autopilot, and if you want to check the autopilot just by itself, you have to say engage autopilot. If you want to engage the autopilot, you say engage the autopilot. But I make this third command, which is engage automatic flight, which engages both autopilot and autothrottle at the same time. So with one voice command you can just check all these two buttons and relax. So now what we must check is, after takeoff, right, that retract flaps.
Flaps retracted.
I was forgetting about that, and now you check that landing gear is up, flaps are up, wing de-ice. Now we should check the engine. Oh, okay, we can do it with voice commands also. Engine anti-ice on. Right, and packs 1 and 2 on. Engine mode selector as required. Spoilers. Disarm. Disarm spoilers.
Spoilers disarmed.
And now we should do a after takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist. Landing gear. Up.
Check.
Flaps. Up.
Check.
Spoilers. Disarm.
Check.
After takeoff checklist completed.
Cruise lights. Now what this command does is that it over 10,000 feet, right, it changes the external lighting configuration, and then you set also a transition altitude which is in this case 10,000 feet, the altimeter. Set standard altimeter. Right. Okay, so now we wait until we get to cruise flight level. Okay, so we're now at cruise altitude, and I'm going to turn off the seatbelt signs, and altimeter is standard to monitor the FMC flight plan, top of descent. The thing about the top of descent in this aircraft is that this aircraft has not yet introduced the vertical navigation system, so this aircraft is not going to go down by itself. You have to check yourself what the top of descent is, and then to get the aircraft to lower altitudes by yourself. So okay, crossfade, wing, engine anti-ice, it's all of that okay. And by experience, I know that the top of descent is before this point. So we're going to prepare the aircraft to go below that point, where the destination is at 2,361 feet. So we're going to take the aircraft to 5,000 feet, I believe. It's going to be a good altitude to grab on the ILS signal. So I will set that via voice command. I will just set the altitude over here. Set altitude 5,000.
Altitude set to 5,000 feet.
And I think I will just take it down because I don't want to reach the airport too high. Expedite altitude. If you want, you can also set by voice command a vertical speed. I divided the vertical speed voice command into two. If you want to climb, you say a number, and that number is going to turn into a climb vertical speed. If you say set descent vertical speed, then the number you say, for example, I don't know, 2,000 is going to turn into minus 2,000, right? I did this so there's no misunderstandings with the minus part and all that. So now that we're at descent, it says here verify descent start on FMA mode, right? Where we'll clear this descending according to the FMA, and we set the descent start manually, so it's not like we have to verify that the aircraft by itself begins descending, because when you have an aircraft with a vertical navigation system that sets a top of descent here on the screen, you need to be aware that the aircraft can make some mistake if you don't set the proper altitude or whatever. So you have to be alert of this, that the aircraft actually begins the descent. So now at descent we should turn on the seatbelt signs, right? Auto brake set. I'm going to set it for medium, and engine and wing anti-ice, it's okay. And the ILS frequency, oh, that I wanted to check that. Where is it? Oh, over here. This is a great tool, by the way, if you want to simulate the ATC communication. No, I'm at the wrong airport. Sorry. (109.9). See? So this was right. It should be correct. And okay, so now we are going to go into the MCDU into approach page over here, and we're going to set the QNH and temperature. Uh-oh. Okay, it seems like we're going way too fast. I'm going to check on that soon enough. Going to set radio minimums of 200. And the approach is 128. We're going to remember that, so because that's the final speed this aircraft has to have before when landing. Okay, so call TC for approach, right? And then of course the lights configuration. Approach lights.
2,500.
I'm a bit low. At CAC-7 I should have gone at 6,000 feet, but no problem. This is just a demonstration. Set local altimeter. but we have a lot of time to reduce speed. We can be certain that we're not going to be too high when we reach the airport, at least. This over here, it says 20 to 10 nautical miles out. If you want to know how to check that on this aircraft, it's right over here. This is the destination. You have over here the number of the distance in nautical miles, 28 nautical miles until we reach the airport. Also, you can know that because over here you have a 20 nautical miles radius, and in this screen you can see the distance by nautical miles. Over here to 10 nautical miles, 15, 20. Okay, so now we're going to begin setting manual speeds. And we have two voice commands related to this. Set speed is going to set a speed over here, and set speed and engage is going to actually engage that speed. Set speed and engage. 200.
Speed set to 0 and engaged.
Don't know why it said set speed to 0, but there's certainly 200 knots set. You can also turn the approach by voice command if you want. Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Arm spoilers.
Spoilers armed.
Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 2.
Flaps 2.
Set speed and engage. 140. 140.
Speed set to 0 and engaged.
Flaps 3.
Flaps 3.
Flaps 4.
Flaps 4.
Set speed. 130.
Speed set to 130.
$1,000.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Spoilers. Armed.
Checked.
Landing gear. Down.
500.
Checked.
Flaps. Landing.
Checked.
Landing checklist completed.
400. $300.
Disengage autopilot.
200. $100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Landing flow.
Landing flow. Flaps retracted. APU ready. Landing flow completed.
Okay, so we had a successful landing and we're already already at the gate. And now if you want to keep flying or whatever, you can also check these items that come after the landing, which is the flow for parking, which is going to shut down the aircraft, like when the aircraft is being shut down to disembark and then re-embark passengers to then fly to another airport. Or if you want to just shut down and secure the aircraft, like shutting it all down to store the aircraft or something like this, you should check also this flow that's going to make the aircraft go into cold state. Shut down aircraft.
Shutting down aircraft. Right engine is shut down. Left engine is shut down. Ready for checklist.
So I'm going to stop over here. Then the following items you can do it by yourself if you want to. And at the end, also at the end of this flight guide, you can see these recommendations that can be used for the usage of lights. This is already incorporated into all of the previous flows, by the way. And the usage of anti-ice, what is icing conditions when the wing, engine or window heat should be used on ground and flight, the minimums regarding what to use, if you use baro minimums or radio minimums according to the ILS category of landing. You should check this on the chart. If you use approach charts, you can find this information over there. And if you want to manually set a descent path, also these are the basic rules to do it. So this is it. I hope you like it, and I hope I'll see you in a future video.